Today we're going to have a book review of The Subtle Art of Not Giving Up. That one. So, this book review is, when you see this title, it can be, you're like, why should I, read this book? And today I wanted to share with you how this book helped me in terms of my perspective around finances. It has so many other takeaways, but I'm just going to pick 4 that are in connection to how I related them to my personal finance life. My first lesson from this book is from a chapter where he talks about how you're always choosing. And his concept is this. Hi, I'm Gabriela, and this is the Personal Finance and Coffee Podcast. And on this channel, we talk about money, we talk about finances. How can you manage your money and reduce your anxiety so that 5 years later, 10 years later, you don't feel like I worked, but I don't know where my money went. That's what we talk about on this channel. If that is content that sounds interesting to you, you can like this episode and subscribe. Today, we're going to have a book review of The Subtle Art of Not Giving Up. That one. When you see this title, it can be, you're like, why should I, read this book? But I read this book last year, and it gave me so many eye-opening moments. And today I wanted to share with you how this book helped me in terms of my perspective around finances. It has so many other takeaways, but I'm just going to pick 4 that are in connection to how I related them to my personal finance life. And not just about managing the money, but the process of my perception of making the money. I just want to connect this book to finances. So let's get into the episode. My first lesson from this book is from a chapter where he talks about how you're always choosing. And his concept is this, is that when we feel like the problem is outside of us and it's either a situation or someone else's fault, we feel like victims and we can't do anything. So we feel like we are the victim, it's not in our power, we can't change anything. And so he's explaining that we are always choosing. If you're miserable in your current situation, chances are it's because you feel like some part of it is outside your control. That there is a problem you have no ability to solve. A problem that was somehow thrust upon you without your choosing. For me, when I read this section, it just made me think about all the areas that I felt the problem was thrust on me. From I can't increase my own, from the fact that the economy is hard, I'll try businesses and they don't get customers and it does not work, I can't increase my income, see how our economy is, from the fact that maybe at my job, I'm not the one who chooses to increase my salary. And now, when I feel like a victim in such circumstances, I'm just explaining the things that go through my head. When I feel like a victim, when I think like this, it's this book that really helped me. I'm trying to take responsibility. Even it may not be my fault, but it is my responsibility. So I'm trying to be more curious about ways that I can solve, ways that I can, for example, earn more income. An example, for example, is that I've been posting content on YouTube, for example. At the moment, I don't earn money, but I do not have control of when I will be monetized. I do not have control. I have a digital product, and that is in my control. I will put it out on the market, and then I will learn some more, and then I will keep interacting with you to see what you need and what problem I can solve for you. Now, this learning process is me trying to take control of what I can, and not to, because you guys, for a very long time, I was, who is me? The economy is bad. I was not taking action. I'm slowly trying to take action and take responsibility for what is within my control and to feel less of a victim. For me, that is how this whole concept really helped me in terms of to reduce my victim mentality. My second concept that I took out from this book is that you're wrong about everything and so am I. What he was explaining here is that there is so much we don't know. There is so much that we don't know. But when we walk into a situation feeling like I have this figured out, there is no room for learning, there is no room for growth. And let me read an area. So he says, growth is an endless iterative process. When we learn something new, we don't go from wrong to right. Rather, We go from wrong to slightly less wrong. And when we learn something additional, we go from slightly less wrong to slightly less wrong than that. And then to even less wrong than that, and so on. We are always in the process of approaching the truth and perfection without actually ever reaching true perfection. For me, there are things that I would want to do, but I have fear. I have fear because I'm like, I know this won't work. Because in my mind, I'm like, I know how this will work. This economy won't. I haven't even tried the idea meanwhile. And in my head, I have conclusions and fears. So I am coming from a place of I know. Which means that I am not learning. I am not allowing myself to be slightly less wrong. So I'm not just in the context of YouTube. I'm just giving examples. So for me, this lesson is that as I approach any business, as I approach my work, as I approach my content creation, to be willing to be wrong. And that is how I learn. Because if I don't have a business now, it means that whatever I have tried, there's something I don't know. Something is not clicking in my head the way I would want it to. So accepting that and going out to learn from other people is my takeaway. To just, Gabi, don't always, it's for me, it was just like, Gabi, don't always feel like you're right. My third takeaway from this book is that failure is the way forward. And you guys, I fear failing. Let me be honest. It is something that I am constantly struggling with. And so in this book, he was explaining that when a child is learning how to walk, I know we've all had this thing, like all motivational speakers say it, but I think when a child is learning how to walk, he doesn't fall and say, no, I can't walk, and he stops trying. So what his concept is that at some point, we all learn to fear failure. And then he was explaining that sometimes it can come from our education system and how we are penalized for being wrong. So we are trained to fear to fail because it's passing that is awarded, not learning, but failing is the problem throughout our education process. And then we now have social media where it looks like everyone is posting their highlight reels and it looks like everybody is thriving, and then you're like, how do I post? It will look like I'm failing. But the part that actually got me is improvement at anything is based on thousands of tiny failures, and the magnitude of your success is based on how many times you failed at something. If someone is better than you at something, then it's likely because she has failed at it more than you have. If someone is worse than you, it is likely because he hasn't been through all the painful learning experiences that you have. So my fourth and final takeaway is the importance of saying no. Now, when I was reading this area, he was explaining that, you know how we can get overwhelmed. Should I do this? Should I do that? In terms of either businesses or job opportunities, different areas. So he was saying that, first of all, we can't do everything. We know that, but when it comes to the decision-making process, it can paralyze. If I choose this, won't I miss out on this? So this is what he was saying. To truly appreciate something, you must confine yourself to it. There's a certain level of joy and meaning that you reach in life only when you've spent decades investing in a single relationship, a single craft, a single career. And you cannot achieve those decades of investment without rejecting the alternatives. And this just gave me the mindset of, if I have chosen to do something, I need to be consistent at it for a while and not keep jumping from one to the other, and also be content that, you know how you can be there and then you're in a business, for example, I'm in content creation, and someone says, oh, there's a deal here, let's start this business. So you constantly feel like, because what you're doing now is not working, then you feel like, maybe I should go to another one. But you've not been in the business that you've started long enough to see the growth and to learn the details. So to find contentment in saying no, and to appreciate that it is actually important to say no to certain areas, and not just to say no, but at the back of my mind, I'm still wondering, could it have worked? But to truly say no and say, this is what I am doing. Now, those are my takeaways. Those are my 4 takeaways from this book. And how do I read my books? First of all, I love reading. I always have. And when I read books, I read them the first time. I read through the book, making highlights, and then I take notes on the books in my journal. Like, I have a book purposely for the summaries of the notes. Now, when I'm taking these notes, I can take notes like 2 pages per day or 3 pages per day. It is a very slow process. And as I handwrite them, I will remember them better. So I'm just giving you as if a background story of how I read the books and how I get my takeaways. If this concept is like, okay, yes, Gabi, I feel like now I'm ready to start something, I have a book review about the 4 disciplines of execution. If most times you find that you have the idea, but then you struggle to take action, the link is here. If that is one you would find it interesting, you can like this episode and subscribe so that you don't miss upcoming episodes. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.